taking care of someone else, it's one of the toughest things you can do, but also incredibly rewarding. And it takes resilience, a lot of it. So today we're diving deep into how to build that resilience as a caregiver, pulling together insights from all kinds of research and articles. Think of it like we're building our own toolkit just for you.
You know, it's interesting, going through everything you sent over, the amount of times mindfulness comes up. It's clearly not just some buzzword. It really seems to be a foundation for a lot of this.
Yeah, it jumped out at me too. But what makes it so essential for caregivers specifically? It seems like more than just, managing stress.
Well, think of it this way. As a caregiver, you're always on, right?
Yeah.
Juggling tasks, decisions, often putting your own needs on hold. Mindfulness, it's like hitting pause for a second, giving you that space to step back from all the chaos and just reconnect with yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does that translate into practical help when you're in the thick of caregiving?
It's about the science.
Hmm.
Like Source 5 talks about the 5-5-10 breathing exercise, right? That directly impacts your nervous system, calms that fight or flight response that's always going off in your stress, almost like a reset button you can use anytime.
So it's not just about feeling calmer in the moment, it's actually building up your ability to handle those intense emotions that come with this role.
Exactly. And that leads right into something else that came up a lot of these sources, self-compassion.
It's funny, caregivers often feel guilty even thinking about self-compassion, like it's selfish to focus on your needs when someone else needs so much.
And that's exactly the misconception these sources challenge. It's not selfish. It's about making caregiving sustainable. Can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. You wouldn't get far. Self-compassion is how you replenish yourself so you can keep giving.
Okay, love that analogy, but how do you actually cultivate that self-compassion, especially when that guilt creeps in?
Source 6 had this great exercise. They called it the compassionate letter. So imagine a good friend going through what you are as a caregiver. What would you write to them? What words of comfort, understanding, encouragement would you offer? Now, here's the key. You direct those same words to yourself.
So it's like quieting that inner critic and instead having a more supportive voice in your head.
Exactly. And speaking of support, that brings us to another piece of the resilience puzzle, social connection.
Yeah, makes sense. Caregiving can be incredibly isolating. But it felt like these sources went beyond just saying stay connected. What else did they highlight?
It's about the different kinds of support you need. Like Source 4 talked about those casual check-ins with friends. A quick call, a text, just that reminder that you're not alone.
Sometimes just knowing that someone's thinking of you can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then there's also needing that deeper connection where you can really process the harder stuff. Source 5 talked about the value of support groups for that.
Where you're with people who truly get the demands and the emotions of the role.
Exactly. A safe space to vent, share, learn from others who've been there. And let's not forget, Source 4 reminded us about the importance of, well, just plain fun.
So easy to lose sight of that when you're in the thick of it.
And yet, so important. Doing things you genuinely enjoy just for you. It's an investment in your well-being. Keeps those parts of yourself alive.
It's about more than just surviving. It's about finding ways to thrive, even with the challenges. And, that actually reminds me of something else that stood out, this emphasis on prioritizing self-care.
Thriving. Yeah, that's really what self-care is all about. It's not some luxury for caregivers. It's about making sure you're okay so you can keep showing up for the person you're caring for.
Yeah, you can't keep running on empty, right? But it's easier said than done. It's so easy to think, I'll take care of myself later. But these sources really emphasize self-care as essential, not selfish.
Exactly. And one thing they really hit on, which is so crucial, is sleep.
Oh, tell me about it.
Source 5 really dug into how sleep deprivation affects caregivers specifically. We try to power through, but it impacts us more than we realize.
It's true. I've definitely had those moments where I'm just running on fumes, and even simple decisions feel impossible.
And Source 5 backs that up. Lack of sleep directly impacts decision-making, resilience, mood, all crucial for caregivers, right?
So not getting enough sleep actually makes you a less effective caregiver.
Yeah,
It's counterproductive.
exactly. And this goes beyond just the practical stuff, too. Source 5 also talked about having hobbies, doing things you actually enjoy.
Which can feel almost silly to think about when you're juggling so much.
Right, but it's about maintaining some sense of self outside of being a caregiver.
Yeah, it's about feeding those parts of yourself that bring you joy and remind you who you are beyond all these demands.
Exactly, finding those things that rejuvenate you so you can come back to caregiving with more energy and purpose.
It's not just about getting through it, it's about finding those moments to actually feel good. And, speaking of which, another thing that really resonated with me was this idea of actually looking for the good, even in challenging situations.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not about toxic positivity or pretending everything's perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even within caregiving, there are moments of joy, gratitude, even growth.
Hmm.
And acknowledging those is so important.
Yeah, it's like you get so caught up in just getting through the day, you forget to even notice those little wins.
It's true, and they're easy to miss. But they're there, like finding a little gem. It's just about training yourself to see them. Source One actually suggests keeping a gratitude journal, just a few minutes a day, writing down a few things you're grateful for, even within caregiving. They say it makes a huge difference.
It's like the more you practice gratitude, the easier it becomes to access,
Oh,
even on those tough days, right?
totally. And that's really what building resilience is all about. It's not about it being easy. It's about how you move through all of it, the good and the bad.
It strikes me, we've been talking so much about the caregiver's resilience, but what about the person they're caring for? Doesn't all of this impact them too? Oh, 100%. That's such a good point. It's not just about the caregiver in isolation, right? When you take care of your own well-being, when you're more resilient, that positive energy, it spills over into everything.
So you taking care of yourself ultimately helps you take better care of them too.
Exactly. Think about it. When you're exhausted, stressed, running on empty, how present can you really be for them? But when you're taking care of your needs, you show up with so much more patience, more understanding.
It's like that saying about the oxygen mask on a plane. You got to put yours on first before you can help anyone else. And
Exactly.
it feels like that's what this whole deep dive has been about, giving caregivers permission to prioritize themselves, not out of selfishness, but because it's good for everyone involved. I love that. It's about recognizing that caregiving, it's not a solo act, it's a shared journey. And the stronger you are, the stronger that whole system is.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up here, I want to leave everyone with this. We've covered a lot today: mindfulness, self-compassion, connection, self-care, even just remembering to look for the good. These aren't just one-time things, they're practices. Some days will be harder than others. That's just how it goes. But keep coming back to these tools, keep learning, and keep building that resilience. It matters for you and for the person you're caring for.